by unanimous decision, and new Undisputed UFC Middleweight Champion of the World!
What? Who do you think is the most deserving contender to challenge you for that belt first?
I don't care about these things, bro. I just, whoever they gives the money, I fight anyone.
The UFC 319 main event between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus Du Plessis has officially cemented itself as one of the most talked about nights in recent middleweight history. Fans were on edge for weeks waiting to see who would walk away with the gold, and after 5 grueling rounds, the winner was crowned in decisive fashion. Chimaev's performance was not only dominant, but also a statement to the rest of the division that the era of Khamzat at middleweight has officially begun. In this video, we will break down what happened during and after the fight, analyze the powerful words Chimaev shared in the aftermath, and look at how he already has his eyes set on anyone who dares to step up for the belt. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another update from Boxai Hub.
By unanimous decision, and new Undisputed UFC Middleweight Champion of the World!
The first and most significant moment of the evening came when the announcer finally revealed that Khamzat Chimaev had won the fight by unanimous decision, making him the undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world. This was the crowning moment of the night, not only because it placed gold around Chimaev's waist, but because it represented the fulfillment of years of hype and promise that surrounded him since the moment he entered the UFC. The unanimous decision signifies that every judge agreed on his dominance, meaning there was no controversy, no split, and no doubt as to who had performed at a championship level. For Chimaev, this victory is more than just a belt. It is the culmination of an entire journey defined by relentless training, an unshakable mindset, and the ability to perform at the highest stage against a former champion like Dricus Du Plessis. The middleweight division is stacked with dangerous contenders, but this moment validated that Chimaev is no longer just the rising star. He is now the undisputed king of the division. From a historical perspective, every era in the UFC has that one fighter who dominates the conversation, who makes headlines before and after every fight, and who forces the rest of the division to adjust their careers around him. This win establishes Khamzat as that fighter. The unanimous decision does not just reflect his performance in this fight, it also signals to the world that he has officially crossed the threshold from potential to proven champion. In a sport where legacy is everything, UFC 319 will forever be remembered as the night the Chimaev era began in the middleweight division.
Happy always. Get my money. Dana, send my money, brother.
After being crowned champion, Khamzat Chimaev shared his immediate reaction. He expressed happiness in securing the win against Dricus Du Plessis, acknowledging that while he expected more resistance, he ultimately felt stronger and more capable inside the cage. In classic Chimaev fashion, he also made it clear that now that the job was done, he wanted to be paid what he was owed, directly calling on Dana White to send his money. This reaction reveals 2 key aspects of Chimaev's mindset. First, it shows his confidence in how he viewed the fight. While he respected Du Plessis as an opponent, he believed from start to finish that he had the advantage in strength, skill, and presence. This is the hallmark of champions, fighters who not only perform but know that they can impose their will regardless of who stands across the octagon. Second, his remarks about payment demonstrate his straightforward and unapologetic approach to the sport. Chimaev is not concerned about public opinion or media narratives. He is concerned about results, about performing, and about being rewarded for it. This mentality is important because it speaks to his focus, a fighter who can enjoy the moment while still keeping his eyes on the business side of fighting. Many fighters get lost in the emotion of victory, but Chimaev's words show a balance between passion and practicality. He knows what he has achieved, he celebrates it briefly, but then immediately shifts to accountability from the organization. It is a reminder that for fighters at the top, the game is about more than just belts. It is about recognition in every form, including financial reward. This dual message of strength and business awareness amplifies the idea that Chimaev is not just a champion in the cage, but a figure who understands the entire game of being a UFC star.
What was the game plan coming into here? Was it just what you did? Did it follow to a T your game plan, dominate from the top?
Bro, I don't have a never game plan. Just go in, work like I do in the gym.
When asked about his game plan heading into the fight, Khamzat Chimaev gave a response that provides deep insight into his philosophy as a fighter. He stated that he had no specific game plan, instead relying on what he does every single day in the gym. This tells us 2 critical things about his approach. First, it underlines the consistency of his preparation. For Chimaev, training and fighting are not separate entities. They are a continuous cycle. The work he puts in at the gym every day is what he brings into the octagon, and that is why he feels no need to construct elaborate strategies. His preparation is his game plan. Second, it highlights his confidence in his natural abilities and instincts. Some fighters rely heavily on strategy, mapping out step-by-step approaches for different scenarios. Chimaev, however, believes in his ability to adapt in the moment because of how well prepared he is physically and mentally. This philosophy can be intimidating for opponents because it means he is unpredictable. If he has no rigid plan, then there is no obvious weakness to exploit. Instead, he reacts fluidly to whatever situation arises, trusting his training and his instincts to guide him. This way of thinking demonstrates a mindset rooted in discipline, repetition, and confidence. It also signals to the rest of the division that no matter what tactics they bring against him, Chimaev will not be thrown off balance. He will rely on his work ethic and raw ability to dictate the outcome, and that makes him one of the most dangerous champions the UFC has seen. His answer is not just a reflection of his work habits, it is a declaration that he believes in himself fully without needing a blueprint, because the way he trains is the very foundation of his victories.
Respect that guy. The only champion who was saying my name has big heart. Real lion. African real lion.
Chimaev did not hesitate to give credit where credit was due when he spoke about Dricus Du Plessis after the fight. He acknowledged that Du Plessis is strong and has heart, even referring to him with respect by comparing him to a lion. Chimaev also made sure to note that Du Plessis was the only champion who actually had the courage to say his name publicly and step into the cage with him. This statement reflects Chimaev's respect for authenticity and bravery in the sport. For him, it is not just about winning, but about recognizing the fighters who are willing to take risks, to stand up and defend their title against dangerous challengers. By calling Du Plessis a lion, Chimaev showed that even in victory, he values toughness and courage. This adds depth to his persona as a champion, because it reveals that he is not merely a destroyer in the octagon, but also someone who understands the importance of respect and honor in competition. At the same time, his words underline a subtle truth about the division. Many fighters talk, but not all follow through, and Du Plessis did. While Chimaev defeated him, he elevated his opponent by acknowledging his strength and heart. This not only builds Chimaev's credibility, but also sets the tone for his reign as a champion who is willing to fight anyone and respect them afterward. It is a clear message to the rest of the middleweight division. Chimaev will face whoever steps up. He will dominate them, but he will also recognize those who have the courage to test themselves against him. His respect for Du Plessis highlights his belief in the honor of competition, while reinforcing his own dominance as the fighter who now holds the belt.
Was working on him, so I had some cool.
When Khamzat confidently declared that he was just working on Dricus in the ring and having some cool time in the cage beating him up, it was not just a casual remark, it was a statement that shook the entire press conference atmosphere. This was Khamzat making it clear that his experience with Dricus in the cage was not some distant memory, but a reminder of what he is capable of when the cage door shuts. He framed it not as a grueling war, not as some back-and-forth struggle, but as him simply enjoying himself while dominating. That kind of talk is not just fighting words, it is psychological warfare. By saying he was having a cool time beating Dricus up, Khamzat was stripping his opponent of credibility and painting himself as the predator who was in complete control the entire time. Fighters talk about sparring, they talk about competition, but very few dismiss their opponents in such a nonchalant and casual manner. This statement is important because it reveals exactly how Khamzat sees himself and how he views Dricus. He is not bothered by the hype that surrounds the South African champion. He is not buying into the respect narrative that many try to push. Instead, he is diminishing Dricus by reducing their cage time together into nothing more than a casual beatdown that Khamzat supposedly enjoyed. This kind of language enrages fighters like Dricus because it undermines the sacrifices, the pain, and the grind they put into their craft. To Khamzat, it was just fun. To Dricus, it was war. That is the difference in mentality. The press conference crowd could feel the sting in that statement. Khamzat did not need to raise his voice. He simply delivered his memory of that cage encounter with such ease that it almost sounded like a veteran telling a story of a sparring session gone his way. But the truth is, words like that dig deep. They plant doubt, they create resentment, and they build pressure. Dricus is now forced into a corner where he either has to prove that Khamzat is lying or live with the image that fans will now carry, that Khamzat had an easy time against him. What Khamzat achieved here was more than trash talk. It was a mental checkmate. He reminded Dricus of that past encounter, reminded the audience of his own dominance, and framed the narrative before the fight even happens. That is the power of confidence mixed with psychological warfare. Khamzat knows exactly what he is doing. He is not just fighting Dricus in the cage, he is fighting him in the mind. And right now, Khamzat is winning that battle.
I don't care what people think about doing my thing. So how many strikes I landed on him, how many takedowns I has there. So I didn't guess out. So now they know.
When Khamzat followed up by saying that he does not care about what people think about him and that he just went in there and did what he is good at, the room shifted again. This was not just bravado, it was conviction. He said he landed the most strikes he ever had in a fight. He did not get taken down, and now the people know. This is the kind of statement that reveals the mentality of a fighter who thrives on self-belief and execution. Khamzat does not chase validation. He forces people to acknowledge him through his performances. What makes this statement powerful is the way he framed it. Fighters often get caught up in what fans, analysts, or even promoters think of them. They tailor their words, they try to look good in the media, they want to be loved. But Khamzat is the opposite. He thrives on being misunderstood, he thrives on being underestimated, and he thrives on shocking people when the fight is over. By highlighting his striking output, by emphasizing that he was never taken down, Khamzat was laying out cold facts to the audience. He was not trying to win a popularity contest. He was reminding everyone of what happened when the cage closed. The people who doubt him cannot argue against those numbers. The people who try to diminish him cannot erase the fact that his opponents fail to control him. Khamzat does not play the game of words. He plays the game of violence. Every strike he lands, every takedown he denies, every dominant performance he puts on, that is his real message. And when he said, "Now the people know," it was his way of saying that he does not need to convince anyone with speeches. His fists and his wrestling do the convincing. This kind of mindset is dangerous for opponents. A fighter who does not care about outside noise and who measures himself only by his results is a nightmare to deal with. Dricus may rely on the crowd's energy, on the hype, on the momentum, but Khamzat is building his entire career on proof. He fights, he dominates, and then he speaks with evidence. That is why fans either love him or hate him, but they cannot ignore him. This statement at the press conference was a reminder that Khamzat is not chasing cheers. He is chasing domination, and domination speaks louder than applause.
Who do you think is the most deserving contender to challenge you for that belt first?
I don't care about these things, bro. I just, whoever they gives the money, I fight anyone.
The final shot Khamzat delivered in this sequence came when he was asked who he thought was the most deserving contender for the belt. His response was chilling in its simplicity. He said he does not care about these things, he just fights where they give the money. This stripped-down truth is what separates Khamzat from so many others in the division. While fighters argue over rankings, over who deserves what, over legacy and recognition, Khamzat dismisses all of it. For him, fighting is not about playing politics. It is about doing what he does best and cashing the check. This statement might sound cold, but it is brutally honest. The fight game has always been about money, even though fighters and promoters try to mask it with narratives about honor, pride, or legacy. Khamzat is not hiding behind those words. He admits outright that he does not care who stands across from him as long as it pays. That mindset makes him even more unpredictable and even more dangerous. You cannot rattle a man who has no emotional attachment to his opponents. You cannot pressure a man who does not care about rankings or narratives. You cannot manipulate a fighter who fights for himself and the rewards, not for external validation. This statement also sends a subtle message to Dricus. It says that Khamzat does not see him as special, does not see him as the ultimate goal, does not even see him as an obstacle. To Khamzat, Dricus is just another paycheck. That is a deep insult in the world of fighting where respect and recognition mean everything. By reducing the fight to money, Khamzat is stripping away the aura Dricus might carry and turning the entire encounter into business. It is one of the most psychologically damaging things you can tell a proud champion, that he is just another payday. What makes this even more impactful is that it is true. Fighters often pretend they fight for legacy, but the reality is that belts do not pay bills. Money does, and Khamzat has embraced that reality in front of the cameras. That blunt honesty makes him not only feared inside the cage, but also respected in a twisted way outside of it. He is the man who does not hide behind excuses. He fights, he gets paid, and he moves on. That is all that matters. The UFC 319 press conference between Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus Du Plessis was more than just a verbal sparring session. It was a display of dominance, confidence, and brutal honesty. Khamzat reminded everyone of the cage encounter, where he supposedly had an easy time with Dricus, reducing that moment into nothing more than a fun beatdown in his mind. He then doubled down by explaining that he does not care about public perception, that his actions in the cage speak louder than opinions, and that his numbers prove his superiority. And finally, he dismissed the entire contender conversation by admitting he fights for money, not for recognition. These three moments reveal the essence of Khamzat Chimaev. He is not playing the traditional game of politics, he is not chasing validation, and he is not placing Dricus on a pedestal. He is treating him like any other opponent, like just another step in his journey, like just another payday. That level of cold detachment makes him terrifying. It means he will enter the cage without emotional burden, without fear, and without hesitation. Dricus can try to fire back, he can try to defend his pride, he can try to remind people of his achievements, but the reality is that Khamzat has already set the tone. He framed their past encounter as easy work, he dismissed the critics, and he belittled the importance of this matchup by labeling it as business. That is psychological warfare at the highest level. UFC 319 is no longer just about who is the better fighter, it is about who controls the narrative, and right now, Khamzat Chimaev has already won that battle before the cage even closes.